Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back once more talking more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And well, this one isn't going to be very much fun. I don't think. Unfortunately, we like to try to keep things light and airy here for the most part on the podcast. Today we've kind of got to talk about something that I don't think is good optics, I guess. And that is PCO. He's apparently done with TNA. His deal apparently ended like almost at the end of last year, I believe it was. Hang on here. Here's some of the quotes. He was meant to finish up at the next set of tapings in San Antonio. His contract expired at the end of the year. So, yeah. I think that most of the stuff that he had been involved in, as far as being a TV character, was taped last year, I believe. So this is coming out of a recent event, a GCW event, the People versus GCW. So following his match, I don't know who he was wrestling or what was going on there. I don't think I really care. I don't know whether you guys really care. If you want to find out more, you can look it up if you really want to. I'm not going to dive into it because that's GCW stuff and I don't really care enough. PCO pulled out the Digital Media Championship. He proceeded to smash it with a sledgehammer, though it didn't really break. Those in GCW claimed that PCO went into business for himself. PCO grabbed the mic and started cutting a promo before the ring announcers took the mic from him and cut to the back or whatever. GCW claimed they didn't know what was going to play out, like it was going to play out like that. PCO sounded like he was doing something that was part of a storyline initially, but that claim was quickly refuted because TNA wasn't aware of like doing this. So basically he's just gone into business for himself here. So yeah, this is not good. It's not a good look for TNA in some ways because, like, here's the thing. Like, I don't agree with what PCO did at all. I don't condone what he did. I think, like, this is a very unprofessional move. And according to what he was saying, like, in the promo, he's been very pissed off with TNA because he drew the largest, the Slammiversary gate, which was the largest gate that they'd had in a while, or whatever it was. He said the largest gate that they'd ever had. It certainly wasn't the largest gate they ever had. Bound for Glory was larger than that, and then just this pay-per-view was even bigger than that. So, so much for that. But yeah, whatever. We're not here to refute claims or to, nitpick these sorts of things that much, but whatever. Sure, he definitely was a part of selling a whole bunch of tickets for Slammiversary. But when you're in this business, you are expected to be a pro. Now, again, I'm not going to condone everything that TNA did because I do think that, hey, why did you put the belt on this guy and then go, oh, we're not going to give you basically anything to do with it. We're not going to book any storylines, really. Like the Matt Cardona thing kind of came out of thin air. They didn't really follow up with his victory too much. They didn't really do too much with him. And after the Matt Cardona thing, they really didn't do anything with him at all. So I don't condone that sort of thing. But again, when you're in this business, you're expected to act like a pro. No matter what happens behind the scenes, no matter what your issues are, you should say, right, well, that's how it is, and this is how I feel. I feel like, hey, I did a whole lot of stuff for you guys. I really helped you guys out. I'm appreciative for the title, but it doesn't mean anything unless you actually like put me out there to wrestle or to have stories or whatever else it is. I think it's a worse look for PCO than it is for TNA, but it's still not a good look because they weren't using him in the right way, I don't think. Perhaps that is because PCO was out here and there or just couldn't make certain dates and things like that as well. I understand that because, he couldn't get in for one of the shows. I can't remember which of the shows. It looked like they were kind of building something with him and Callahan potentially that perhaps was going to pay off next week. We don't know what's going to happen next week now due to PCO not being technically part of the company, and we don't know what's going to happen with the digital media title since he basically damaged and destroyed it in the way that he did. So yeah, this is not good. No matter which way, you kind of come at it. But as I said, this is very unprofessional. You should settle this, backstage. And if you do have an issue, again, you should do the right thing. This PCO, he's been in the business since maybe the 80s, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s, whatever it is. He's been around the block and he's probably been screwed around a bit as well. So I can understand if you're feeling frustrated with things and you're like, hey, but you've got to also realize, hey, well, did I make that show? No, I didn't make that show. That's right. But that wasn't my fault. Again, that is what it is. But did I make that show? No, I didn't. I did everything I could to be at that show, but I wasn't there because of travel issues, because of whatever it was. But that is what it was. That's why they didn't use me at that time. Whatever. I understand that. But, again, they're not completely clean-handed here. But just going about it in this form, in this fashion, is completely the wrong way to do things. The guy didn't just burn a bridge effectively with TNA, which is basically one of the top three biggest promotions in the world. They're partnered with WWE, fella. You know that? Which is the biggest promotion in the world. And not only considering that they're partners, but even if they weren't partners, they see you doing this shit, or they hear about you doing this shit. Dude, you just burned a bridge with them. How is any company, going to trust you? You also just burnt a bridge with GCW, where you were just wrestling. You went off script, you went into business for yourself. So I don't know, that's not a good idea. I liked PCO as a wrestler, but this is the thing. I was saying this in his feud with Khan and whatnot. The guy is pushing 60 plus whatever years old. Age is just a number, sure, but it's a big risk for this guy. Look, and legends, icons, these sorts of people, like what Nick Nemeth did here in his run. You're not here. You're here to do yourself some justice from saying, hey, I can still go and I can still be useful and I can still be valuable. And the last place I was in undervalued me and underused me, and I could have been a big asset. Absolutely, that's fine. If you have that chip on your shoulder or whatever else it is, come here and we'll give you the chance to freaking well show that you can still go and you can still be relevant and you can still, be part of this thing. But at some point, you've got to let the new blood thrive. And legends have to be there to be just teachers or just stepping stones for some of these guys, because at a certain point, you just can't keep relying on these legends or these icons or whatever else you want to call these guys, because they just can't go at the rate that they used to go. And people get tired of seeing the same old shtick, I feel worst for the fans, because the fans, I think, were still into PCO. They still liked him. I think one of the biggest things that was on TNA, like in the last couple of years, was the whole Steph DeLandre story. Like, it starts becoming like, well, where's that going to go from here type thing? Like, she's probably just going to return at some point later on in the year, hopefully. And go from there, hopefully. So hopefully she can go on without PCO and whatnot and do her own thing in the Knockouts division. I think that she'd be a welcome addition to it. But it starts becoming like, well, what's she going to do? Like, type thing. She could have a feud with a couple of jobbers, unfortunately. That being in like Alicia, Tasha, and Savannah. So tough breaks there. Maybe you could put her with the Elegances or against the Elegances. Maybe you could turn her heel, I don't know. But then it's like, then there's even less people for her to fight. Maybe she could eventually face Tessa Blanchard. I mean, if Kylan King comes back, then we're starting to maybe talk. I don't know. Depends. Like, it really depends, like, what you actually give some of these people to do. Because it's like, if you're just, like, saying, well, we haven't got anyone for you to work with apart from effectively the jobbers or effectively the champion. Like, that's, a huge leap. There's no one in the middle. Like, that's the problem. Like, I keep saying this. Like, that's another reason why they should, can the tag team division. They should have these people that are kind of on the edge or on the cusp of, like, being at the top. But they're not at the top, So they're jobbers to the stars, effectively. But one of them could break through, up to the top at some point, depending on, what the conditions are, who needs to, kind of be the next stone on the chopping block, so to speak, for the most part, unfortunately, until they're actually going to put somebody there and say, okay, let's put this person over. But, again, anyway, we're not really talking about that. It just sort of came up in my thought process here as we're discussing this. So, yeah, but, it is to do with titles and such and whatever else. So, it is what it is as well. Like, as I had been sort of saying, the Knockouts tag titles were, like, one of the worst titles as far as legitimacy and, like, all that stuff. But, like, if there was any title that was worse off, it was the digital media title. Like, I don't know whether they're going to bring it back. I don't know whether they should just, like, retire it. Because, again, like, they didn't really do anything with it for the last, like, couple of months, really, anyway. And, like, losing PCO, I don't think that's a big loss, honestly. I don't know. That's just me. That's just the way that I look at it. I like, he's certainly a veteran in some regards, but, like, if he's going to carry on like this, there's a lot of young kids that have been on the roster longer, or been under contract or whatever else it is, or been been there, done that, and kind of had themselves not screwed over, but not misused or just not used, so to speak, for long periods of time. Not somebody certainly that is a champion, I guess, but again, that sort of thing, it happens again. It's just bad luck that, you weren't able to get to those tapings, or you weren't, at this thing, or you were whatever else it was, and all this other stuff. But again, it is what it is. And like, even the young kids that are in this business should be taught to do better than what PCO is done. And it should be a shining example of what not to do, because it doesn't just hurt you, which is like the most major thing for anyone to realize. As far as it makes you look bad, but it also makes everyone go, well, the fuck are we working with you for? Like, even if you have like a negative sentiment or a negative feeling or whatever it is, like, that's all right. Well, we're going to work this out, or we're going to get to the point where you're going to have to take this thing off of me, and I'll gladly put over whoever it is over, and then I'll be on my way and go to the next thing. I had the distinct feeling that PCO was probably going to go to WWE at some point and try to have a retirement run or something like that. Like, I felt like his TNA run was like a fairly much a retirement run in some ways, but I feel like the way that they kind of booked him at certain points was really also really silly and whatnot. He should have been looking like he's the monster of the past, so to speak, again, to kind of put over newer people and whatnot, so that they look good, and so that they have that credibility and that potential to go forward. We'll have to keep our eyes on the digital media title situation. Perhaps they'll just do what they did kind of with Tessa, but, maybe a bit different. There wasn't really any plans for the digital media title, but I guess they're going to have to potentially come up with them, but that's not that hard to come up with things. But again, like, they really haven't done that for a few months now. So I don't know. But again, like, with a dwindling roster, it's like, why having so many titles and whatnot? I do feel like it's sort of a bit too much in some cases, but it sort of does give like a few of the other people something else to fight for or fight over. But again, it kind of does get in the way of like people just trying to fight for the world title or whatever else it is. So having another mid-card-ish title, is kind of like really difficult. I was thinking, well, maybe it should be fused with the world title, but then I was thinking maybe it should be fused with the X Division title. I don't know. Like, I don't know what you should do there. Maybe you should just like retire it or whatever, right? I don't know what the solution ultimately is or whatever, but again, like, obviously they'll have to figure that out themselves. But yeah, I certainly think that, this situation has no real upsides in it. But yeah. Guys, unfortunately, this hasn't been like the most good episode here, but I hope you kind of found it sort of interesting, or, at least like informative or whatever else. I don't know how to kind of put it. It's not like a death or something like that, but again, we don't really do that sort of like reporting here or whatever else. But this is something that's sort of major that will affect, like if like somebody like Chris Bay got injured a while back and whatnot. But again, like, there's been a few people that have got injured over the last like couple of years, whatever it's been, and they haven't really made a huge deal out of any of their injuries, maybe because like a lot of them aren't as serious or whatever else it is. But again, just like, it does feel a little bit like, wow, these other people got injured and you don't give a single shit that they're injured and out for months on end. Yes, maybe Chris Bay is completely out for almost forever, but, again, don't mention these other people at all, but whatever. But yeah, guys, like, it's a bad situation, whichever way you look at it. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it in some way, or you found something useful in it, or whatever else it is. And I hope you guys will join me again in the next one.